Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to the Mindset Conquest podcast, where every week I'll be joined by a special guest who will be sharing what they've experienced as the biggest failure in their life, but most importantly, the lessons that they've learned from that experience. I'll be spending time with people that I've met throughout my life's journey in business, music, and sport. And the goal is to provide listeners like yourselves with the motivation needed to get through all of life's challenges and learn not to be afraid of failure, but rather to embrace it. Please like and subscribe and enjoy this episode. I'm Chris Atwell. I'm a mindset coach, music producer, and a sales leader. In today's episode, I'm joined by Todd Lubas. Todd is a Virginia Tech graduate whose career journey includes sales and politics. He grew up in Pennsylvania and currently lives in Denver, Colorado. He's an avid runner and has completed 10 marathons, including the Boston and Chicago marathons. In 2018, he ran the Antarctica Marathon, where he won first place, finishing in 3 hours and 7 minutes. Welcome to the Mindset Conquest podcast. We've got a very special guest today. Todd Lubas is joining us from Denver, Colorado. Todd, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing well, Chris. Thanks for having me.
Hey, my pleasure. My pleasure. Todd, let's get started. I want to give the listeners a chance to get to know you. Why don't you start by telling us about yourself, who you are, where you're from, and what you do as a profession?
All right. Thanks, Chris. Yes, like you said, I'm here in Denver, Colorado, but originally from the state of Pennsylvania before moving out here about 5 years ago. I'm a 38-year-old bachelor here living the Colorado dream. I'm not experiencing the great outdoors of Colorado. I work for a public policy and advocacy firm doing external relations and an advisor. So politics is the day job, but enjoying Colorado is the free time.
Politics, eh? Have you always been into politics? Tell me a little bit about that.
I have, yes. I think from a very young age, I just had this, people who are big sports fans, I kind of always saw politics as kind of like watching sports, and whatever side you're on, it's fun to watch. So I decided to make it a career about 5 years ago, and it's been treating me well ever since.
Excellent. Excellent. So what does that involve? You're an advisor. What exactly does that mean?
So I report to the president of our organization, and we have a portfolio of about 100 sort of movers and shakers in the western region of this country. And I'm the relationship manager between those people and the president of our organization. So, politics is all about relationships, and I'm a figure in keeping those going between our organization and people out here in the Mountain West and West Coast of the U.S.
Amazing. Amazing. And what made you move to Colorado from Pennsylvania? Both beautiful states, by the way.
It was the job. I tell people, when you're going to start a new career, it's scary, it's risk taking, and I took a huge leap of faith, moved to a city where I did not know a single person, and started a career here working in state public policy. For a group out here based in Denver, the state capital, where they help craft and advocate for policies in the state of Colorado. That led to a new opportunity with a organization based in Washington, D.C. So the leap of faith was worth it. It paid dividends, to say the least. Excellent.
Lots of outdoor activities available in Colorado, no doubt about that. Are you into sports? What do you do in terms of outdoor activities, fitness kind of thing?
Running, skiing, camping, mountain biking, road biking, fishing, and really just driving my new truck I just bought about 2 months ago.
Oh, nice.
Out into the mountains, and just I can sit in the back of the truck and stare at the stars, stare at the mountains, and take it all in. So I'm easily entertained out there.
Excellent. I haven't been out there in years. Love that that city, and the mountain views are breathtaking. Beautiful spot. So the premise of this podcast, Todd, is really to give our listeners a chance to hear from the guests regarding their biggest failures, their biggest challenges they've been faced with in their life, so that they can learn to not be afraid of failure, but less to embrace it. And what I'm hoping you can share with us today is, what does Todd consider to be his biggest failure, his biggest challenge in his life that he's experienced?
Well, I put some thought into this, and I even texted you when I was struggling with this the other day. And I was thinking to myself, I think why I struggled so much with it is that I am one who tends to not dwell on the past very long or for much time at all. I tend to fail, give myself 24 hours to sulk and write down a few things I learned from it and move on. And I'm forward looking, I'm forward thinking. If you would ask any of my buddies who come to me for advice or a sounding board when, whether it's a relationship or work or anything that they, or want to bitch and moan about, I'll say to them, all right, you've got 5 minutes to bitch and moan about what went wrong and who you're blaming and excuses or this or that. But after that, all I want to talk to you about is what you're doing moving forward. And that to me is my biggest thing. So it's not that I never failed in my life. Oh, I've got plenty to think about, because I tend not to dwell on them too long. But that being said, what I thought would be something that I wanted to talk about today was not necessarily a failure, but more of a tragedy in my life that molded in a lot of ways, and how I moved on from that, because it does relate to a failure in that it was looking forward, that same sort of looking forward and onward outlook as opposed to looking backward. And that was in 2015. My niece passed away after a hard fought but short battle with pediatric brain cancer. And watching a little girl go through that is heartbreaking, and watching what it did to my sister and my brother-in-law and my mother. And it's tough. It was really, really tough. And I think about what I learned from that and how it molded how I look at other things in life. And it's something that I think I can share with others that would be insightful.
Yeah. My condolences, by the way. I remember you telling me about that tragedy. It is sad. What was that experience like? What were you feeling at the time? And how did you deal with it? So,
during her illness, it was, optimism through and through, even though, doctors didn't give us much optimism, but, there's no other option but to be optimistic when talking about a little girl's life. Her name was Josie, by the way. I should have mentioned that. Josie's, to be optimistic for her, even when the diagnosis was so poor. But I think what I would like to share is how on the day of her death, and kind of how I moved on from that. And it was always grief and sadness. But my mantra from that day forward became, how do I live my life for the little girl who never got a shot to live hers? And doing that every day since. A lot of that I channeled into running. Running used to be just sort of exercise for me and something that I for stress and this and that. But suddenly running became bigger than me. It became doing it for Josie. I ran the Antarctica Marathon.
Okay, wait. You run marathons in Antarctica?
Yeah, yes, Chris. After about a 80-hour journey from Denver, Colorado to Prince George Island, Antarctica.
Wow.
About 200 runners every year run 26.2 miles on the last continent, and I hold the American record.
That is incredible! Wow, and you did that for your niece.
I did, and I ran it with my brother-in-law, her father, and we raised a boatload of cash for research for the rare type of cancer she had too. So It was for her and in more ways than one. And, channeling, running and sort of that energy into her memories was one way we were, living for her.
Wow. Absolutely incredible. That's amazing. So you go through this tragedy, you channel those feelings into something positive, fundraising, using fitness and reaching these new objectives is kind of like a goalpost to help get you through it. You run 26.5 miles in the freezing cold in Antarctica, and you hold the American record. What is the American record? What does that mean?
I ran it in 3 hours and 4 minutes.
Wow.
Which would not be a very fast marathon here on a road or something, but all things considered, the elements and the travel there and the threat of a leopard seal attacking you along the way. And I'll send you a picture of a leopard seal after this. They are some nasty, nasty creatures if you don't know what. And I won it for her, and it was really an amazing experience. And we knew she was looking down on us the entire way. And that's more what I wanted to share about this too. And people dealing with grief, it's easy to want to stay in bed, but
of course,
live your life for that person and know that they want you to do the same. They don't want you to be sad. They don't want you, beating yourself up, laying in bed. They want you to get out there and live your best life. So do that for them.
Wow. I'm kind of at a loss for words because it's such a beautiful story. It's sad and tragic, but at the same time, what you've got out of it is incredible. Some of the advice I'm hearing here is, don't let the grief make you stay in your bed and sulk and be sad. What other advice would you give someone who's experiencing grief at that level? Somebody close, especially a kid.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to play therapist because everyone grieves differently, but I would say, a lot of it comes down to, how would I say this? It's such a cliche term, but the old pick yourself up from your bootstraps. I mean, no one's going to drag you out of bed. No one's going to make you, work harder, train harder, do this or that. But you have to have that pep talk with yourself. And I think when it goes to, overcoming grief to then accomplish, whether it's running a marathon or professional goals or this or that, celebrate the small victories. You know what I mean? When you get back on your feet after dealing with grief, there's going to be a lot of ups and downs. But I think we as a society do a bad job of not celebrating the small victories and the baby steps.
Mm-hmm.
We celebrate when we did it. We won the race. We got the promotion. We did this or that. Celebrate those small victories because there's going to be a lot of those before you get to the finish line.
Love it. The first one you pinpointed there is one of the principles of success that Jack Canfield mentions in his book, Principles of Success. And that is you need to take 100% responsibility for yourself. And you can either choose to lay in bed or you can put your boots on and start living a life that you want. Right. Mm-hmm. And I agree. Celebrating small successes along the way is so rewarding. It helps with morale. It helps with momentum. It helps just make sure that you're on the right path. So I agree with you there 100%. I like that. Thanks for sharing.
Okay, to tell you one more thing, and this is something I thought just of now that is a little corny, but I've been doing it for 10 plus years, originally just with marathon times, but I do it with things now too. It's I write things on the tile in my shower.
Okay. How do you mean like in the steam?
No, with an erasable Sharpie.
Okay.
So it can come off, but it's there to stay, as long as you want it to be there. So you're washing your hair at 6 a.m. in the shower and it might say, 2:40, 2:49, which is a marathon time that I would like to run. Or or it might say, you know, the date of a big work meeting that I have. Like, visualize these things as much as possible, particularly when you start your day. You know, I'm not a huge morning person, but when you have a goal staring you in the face, you know, in the shower, it's a good way to start the day.
The power of visualization. Absolutely.
Yes.
I've got to try that one. I never thought about that, writing it down in the shower. I guess you could write it anywhere.
Yeah.
You know, I've got sticky notes on my wall here.
Right. Yeah.
But you know, it's right in your face when you're up against the tile wall like that. Hey, thanks for that. What, you know, when you were going through all that stuff, what are some of the best resources that you had at the time that helped get you through it?
Something that I always kind of fall back on is, again, so it's not so easy to just sort of, you know, blame your failure or blame your grief or blame your situation and, you know, throw in the towel in life. Is accountability with those around you. Tell people around you what you want to do. If you want to run a fast marathon, if you want to get this new job, you need to tell people, because the next time you see that person, they're going to ask you how that's going.
Right.
And you're going to want to tell them, I had X, Y, and Z, small baby steps or small victories to that end goal. And I'm guilty of this as well. You know, sometimes, you know, we don't want to share our goals with others because we don't want to fail or have to come to them and say, oh yeah, it didn't work out, or, oh yeah, I'm injured, I'm not going to do that anymore. You got to tell people. Tell anyone. You don't got to, you know, post it on Facebook. You don't got to tell the world, but tell your close friends and family, and have those people hold you accountable.
And who would you tell? Who are kind of like the closest people that you would tell when you were about to run that marathon?
My father is a big inspiration for me. I get my optimism and positive outlook from him, without a doubt.
Nice.
We also look a lot alike too. I'll send you a picture of us skiing last weekend. So I think that, and you know, again, I running has been a big part of sort of dealing with grief and failure and stress and that sort of thing. And the running community has been a big part of my life, of the people you talk to on a run and share your, you know, what's on your mind and your obstacles and goals and things like that. So I think that has been a big part of my life, my father and the running community.
Excellent. Yeah. Having like-minded people, surrounded by people who are into the same passions as you are, is so rewarding. Who are the 3 people that have been the most influential to you in your life?
Well, I mentioned my father, so I'll add him there. Good leaders. And I have many of them in my life through work and even just through my circle of friends. But, you know, a good leader is somebody who, one, has that same optimistic outlook that I mentioned earlier. And someone that will always lift you up and not, you know, bring you down. We tend to surround ourselves with people who, because they have low self-esteem or they have their own issues, they want to not knock you down. And you really need to find yourself in a circle of friends and loved ones that only lift you up. And I think that weeding out the ones that don't is very important.
Yeah. So your dad is at the top of the list. Who are some of the good leaders that influenced you?
Well, as a guy who's political by nature, you know, and you know, we can even take his politics out of it, but as a 16-year-old young man watching the World Trade Towers burn in front of me in Mrs. Goodyear's English class, and what President George W. Bush did at the time, he brought a country and a world together. You know, we look at other world events and we're torn apart more than we are brought together. And there was a leadership style in him that was uniting and positive, and also, you know, kind of back to the full circle, you know, dealing with the grief of losing almost 3,000 Americans, but turning that into a way to bring this country together. And that was probably, and I maybe should have mentioned this earlier, that was probably the start of me getting interested in politics, was watching him as a world leader in 2001.
Wow. Very cool. Very cool. So one of the things that I'm a big believer in is when it comes to success and when it comes to overcoming challenges and failures, we all need to practice good habits and routines in life, right? Habits are like the cornerstone of making sure that you're on the right track and you're set up for success. So I'm curious to know, and I wonder, what are some of the good habits that you practice and why?
I said that the visual things.
Mm-hmm.
Good one. It goes back to being visual, and I'm glad that you comment that that's something that you like to do too. Don't run with headphones.
Really?
When I think about I'm out there in the open road or on a trail and I'm looking forward, it's that's time to make a plan. That's time to think. That's time to learn from my mistakes. It's my one-on-one time with myself. And when I ditched the headphones while running about 7 years ago, I learned to love running even more than I did before then, because it offered me that time to really, to again, going back to the whole looking forward, you got the open road in front of you and you're looking forward and you're thinking forward and you're making those plans and what can I do tomorrow that I didn't do today? And it's a habit that I think I like to tell all other runners or anyone doing any kind of exercise. Use that time to think and not to zone out to music.
So you've been running all these long distances without headphones for 7 years?
At least that, yep.
Wow. Yep. I'm surprised because when I think of running, I automatically think of popping my AirPods in and, playing a playlist and keeping a tempo and a pace and going to town. Is that a common thing in the running community?
It is. You have a lot of people like me, maybe it's split 50-50, I don't know, but there's people like me who have that same sort of thought about it. And I tell people, though, it takes a little while, but I say, just do it for a week, try it for a week and let me know how you feel about it. And generally, if they get to 2 weeks, they say, I hear what you're saying. That's where I get that clarity and what have you. So it's not easy to, once you're used to it, though, it's not hard to make that switch, but
yeah, very cool. I'm going to give that a try for sure. I took on CrossFit quite a few years ago, and a lot of the workouts that I do, I definitely don't have headphones in. But when I go for my 5Ks, always got them in, and I'm sure now that I think about it, after what you've kind of explained, that I could benefit from that alone time. It's a good time for reflection, like you said, good time for planning, and being in the moment. Now that I think about it,
yes, I
like that habit. I hope that the listeners here take a piece of that and give it a try. And we'd love to get your comments. After trying it for a week, leave comments on the channel here and let us know what you think. That's awesome. So Todd, before we go, great convo. Thank you very much for sharing your journey with me. I'm curious to know, where can people find you online? Are you on social media? Where can people find you?
I am. I'm a bit of an avid Instagrammer, if you will. It's Toddo with 5 O's. So TODDOOOOO, Toddo.
Awesome. What do you share on your Instagram profile?
A lot of my running, skiing, camping, and biking adventures. I'm also an avid Coors and Coors Light drinker. So photography of Coors cans is a little side hustle of mine. No, it's not like a side hustle because it doesn't pay me anything, but it's a side hobby of mine.
So no coincidence that you happen to be in the state of Colorado and you like Coors Light, right? Yeah.
It was one of the many things that brought me here, but it was at the top of the list.
Awesome. And it even looks like that wall shelf that you have behind you is shaped kind of like, the Coors Light logo.
That's no coincidence.
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. Todd, it was a real pleasure speaking with you. Thank you again for taking the time to, share your journey with our listeners and the lessons you learned. Really appreciate the advice. There's quite a few takeaways there that I'm going to start applying in my day-to-day. Have yourself an awesome afternoon and take care. Okay.
Chris, thank you, sir. Pleasure being with you.